Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm very excited about the cake that I have planned for you guys. So this past week I went and visited my parents, and my mom actually found a book that she gave to me back when I was 4 years old, and that is a recipe book for cakes, which is so crazy because this was dated back in 2000, and she wrote, "To my darling daughter, the one that loves to cook and bake," which is just, I don't know, it's so crazy that 21 years later I'm here with my own baking company, and I'm super excited to be able to try out these recipes. But for today, the recipe that I have planned is the German butter cake, which I'm a huge fan of butter cake, so I'm super excited to try it out and see how it turns out. So let's get started. Okay, so the first step in the book says to, in a small bowl, combine the yeast and 1 tablespoon of sugar and warm water and set aside. I've never used yeast in a cake recipe, so I'm interested to see how this is going to turn out. So for the cup of water, it says a half a cup of lukewarm water. So I have that here. I'm just going to go warm it up in the microwave really quick, and then we'll go ahead and add our yeast and sugar. Okay, so now that our water is lukewarm, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of active dry yeast, and then 1 tablespoon of sugar. Alright, now we're going to set our yeast mixture aside for 15 minutes while we work on the rest of the recipe. Okay, so for the rest of the cake, it says to mix half a cup of sugar minus the 1 tablespoon that we just took out with half a cup of unsalted butter, and this is at room temperature. And then 1 teaspoon of salt. So we're just gonna mix this together until the butter and sugar and salt are all incorporated. So in this recipe book, it calls for 1 vanilla bean, and instead of using that, I have vanilla bean paste. So in here it says to heat your milk and vanilla bean on the stove. So instead of doing that, I have 3/4 a cup of my oat milk, and I'm just going to use a tablespoon of this and then heat it up in the microwave for about 20 seconds. Okay, so I have my oat milk with my vanilla bean paste, and I'm just going to add that to our butter mixture on low speed. Okay, now scrape down the sides of the bowl. This is definitely looking very interesting. Not what I'm used to, but I'm just gonna trust the process. Alright, our yeast mixture is nice and fluffy. It's been about, I'd say 12 minutes, and it is time now to mix it in with our butter mixture, and then also add the zest of 1 lemon with the yeast. So the next step says to add in our eggs. So we have 3 large eggs, and it says to add them in 1 at a time. Okay, now it's time to add in our flour. So this recipe calls for 4 cups of all-purpose flour. So it says to fold in 1 cup at a time to the butter mixture that we have in our mixer. Okay, so it's looking pretty thick, and now it says to beat the dough for 5 minutes or until smooth. So I'm just gonna do it on medium-high until it looks like more of a cake batter consistency. Right now it definitely looks like dough, more like bread dough. So hopefully it gets smoother. Okay, so our batter is looking a little bit more smooth, definitely still pretty doughy, but I guess that's because of the yeast. So now it says to put it into a 9x13 pan. So I've sprayed that with some cooking spray, and then we have to let it sit for about 30 to 45 minutes, and then we can go ahead and cook it. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour it in, and then we're gonna cover it. Okay, so this is what our dough is looking like right now. So hopefully within 30 to 45 minutes it will rise a little bit, and then it'll be ready to put in the oven. Alright, now for the topping for the cake, it calls for unsalted butter, sugar, brown sugar, cinnamon, vanilla extract, and then almonds and walnuts. But I'm not really a big fan of nuts in my cake, so I'm gonna go without the almonds and walnuts, but I'll list all of the ingredients right here for you guys, so if you do want to include them, you can go ahead and do so. Okay, so the first step is to cream the butter, sugar, and brown sugar together. So we have 3/4 a cup of softened butter. And then 1/2 cup of sugar. And then it says 3/4 a cup of packed brown sugar. And now we're just gonna mix this on medium speed until it is all mixed together. Alright, once your butter and sugar mixture is light and fluffy, we can go in, and this is where you would add the almonds, walnuts, cinnamon, and vanilla. So I'm just gonna add in the cinnamon and vanilla part. So it's just gonna be 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, and then 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And then we're just gonna mix this again until it's all incorporated. All right, so it's been about 45 minutes since we've left our dough, and it has definitely risen. It's important when you're letting your dough rise to have it in a warm place. I checked on my dough 15 minutes in, it was just sitting on my kitchen counter, and it didn't really look like it was rising, so I set it out on my balcony covered with the cloth for about 30 more minutes, and it rose nicely. So now the recipe says to take that butter mixture for the topping that we just made and just spoon it into the dough. So we're just gonna do little dollops. Okay, now it's finally ready to put into the oven. So I have my oven set at 400 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're gonna bake it for 35 minutes. All right, it has been about 30 minutes, and the book also said that once the top is nice and golden brown, that it should be ready. So I poked a knife into it, it came out nice and clean. So now it is ready to set out and let it cool. Alright, that's it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you guys want to try making this recipe on your own, I'll be adding all of the ingredients down below in the description. And I'll see you guys next time. Okay, so it's been about 45 minutes since we let our dough set, and it definitely has grown. I don't know if you guys can tell. Ooh!